Welcome to the family, Nina Winchester says as I shake her elegant manicured hand. I smile politely, gazing around the marble hallway. Working here is my last chance to start fresh. I can pretend to be whoever I like, but I'll soon learn that the Winchester's secrets are far more dangerous than my own. Every day, I clean the Winchester's beautiful house, top to bottom. I collect their daughter from school, and I cook a delicious meal for the whole family before heading up to eat alone in my tiny room on the top floor. I try to ignore how Nina makes a mess just to watch me clean it up, how she tells strange lies about her own daughter, and how her husband Andrew seems more broken every day. But as I look into Andrew's handsome brown eyes, so full of pain, it's hard not to imagine what it might be like to live Nina's life. The walk-in closet, the fancy car, the perfect husband. I only try on one of Nina's pristine white dresses once, just to see what it's like. But she soon finds out, and by the time I realize my attic bedroom door only locks from the outside, it's far too late. But I reassure myself the Winchesters don't know who I really am. They don't know what I'm capable of. Hey guys, I'm back and I'm here to do my first review the month of April. I read The Housemaid by Frida McFadden. So I am reading this for my Normandy book club. We're going to discuss it on, I think it's the 26th of the month. So I thought, let me just jump on it and get a head start. So this book was really something that I personally did not really want to read because I felt like this wasn't going to be my cup of tea. And it was not, of course. I mean, I wouldn't say that I am, like I read tons of thrillers and mysteries. But I must say when I do read a thriller or mystery, I try to read a good one, like a really good one. For me, a thriller or mystery has to be, first of all, it has to be intelligent. And that is one of the things that this particular thriller is, for me personally, is missing, is a bit of intelligence. One of the main problems with the book is that we have a small cast of characters, but even though we still don't get any depth in each of these characters, they're only carbon copy, just face value kind of characters. So it's like if you say, okay, this is character one, and she is this, this, and this, and she's this height, and she looks like this. But within the story, you don't get any more than that description. And that makes the story a little light for me, a little bit light in the purse, because if you really want the characters to jump off the page and you really want the reader to understand and sympathize with these characters, I feel like the first thing you got to do is make these characters feel real, and you want to make your reader sympathize with them. So the entire time I was reading this book, I was not sympathizing with any of these characters. Not the main character, who is Millie, the housemaid. Could care less. I mean, we know a little bit about her story. We kind of know that she's attractive. We know she spent some time in jail. But other than the rest of it, it's just kind of surfaced for me. There's no depth there. Now, I listened to this on audio. I chose to listen to it on audio instead of purchasing the book on Kindle or something like that. Let me just listen to it. So when I was listening to it, now there was one thing when I was listening which was kind of awkward, was the person that was reading Millie. When she would read Millie's character, she would go into this kind of heavy New York accent, and then it would just kind of diminish as she would be speaking more and more. And then like the next paragraph, the accent would come back, and then it would kind of like drift off like this. So I thought that was kind of funny. There was also some characters in the book that didn't serve as much as they could have served. I felt like, I don't want to give too much away, but there was one particular character who works in the garden. His character could have been so much more interesting if the author would have chosen to do something with the character. But she just kept the character. She tried to make him mysterious, but I think she did a piss poor job of making him seem mysterious, because we just don't know enough about him. All we know is that he's Italian and he's hot. We don't know nothing else about him. Not really, you know. We start to learn a little bit more about his backstory, but much later in the novel. But as to say that he's going to be a character that is a moving piece within her storyline, that is gonna kind of help move the story along at some point, is kind of weird to me, because he was just too outside of the story. And like, he doesn't have a lot of lines. He's just kind of like the lurking around in the garden, you know. But it's a character that serves no real good purpose in the novel. Not really, in my opinion. So that's another thing. And I can feel how the story, it's like it's told like in parts. So you can see that she starts part one and then she moves on. And there's a certain moment where the book shifts into another part, and then it shifts into another one. The storyline itself is not a bad storyline. It's just that it's missing depth. It's missing something more to make me say, oh my God, this is like the best book, which is what I was hearing when this book came out. I think it was 2 years ago this book came out. And I was hearing people on Instagram like rave about how fantastic this book, it was the best book. And I was like, okay, you know, I can get down with a thriller. But then as I started to hear things here and there, I was not really thinking. I said, oh, this doesn't sound like my cup of tea. And so I just became disinterested. But I mean, thrillers that I find interesting are thrillers like this, which is Razorblade Tears. You know, now that's like a mystery thriller that has a lot of action, but it also has a lot of depth within these characters. You get a lot of introspective thinking about who they are as people, so that we can then either love the character or hate the character, but all the same, we get some depth in the character. Now, the character of Millie, we get a little bit of depth from her and like what she's thinking and stuff like that. But the other characters, Andrew Winchester and Nina Winchester, we just get that they're just some rich folk, you know, living in this big house in this ritzy neighborhood. You know, they have a lot of money, but there's not enough depth in the personalities and just who they are as characters and what purpose is driving the narrative. So for me, the only purpose I can see that's driving the narrative of The Housemaid is a particular scenario that's driving it. Up until the scenario that gets us to the point where we see what's really going on, the book is supposed to be driving us towards that. But we spend a lot of time doing some other awkward, reading about other awkward aspects of the story. And I feel like the gotcha moment it's like we're only reading for the gotcha moment. And that is, to me, seems like it's missing, for me, some real depth in the story. It's missing stuff. But I gave the example of S.A. Cosby, but there's also Attica Locke. So when I think about Attica Locke, one of the best thrillers, mystery thrillers from her was Cutting Season. The Cutting Season is fantastic. It's got a lot of build up and mystery around it. Other one is her Highway 59 series. That one has a lot of, you know, build up. And I mean, you can actually feel the pressure build up. Now, the thing about The Housemaid is I feel like it really reads like it could be a manuscript for a movie. It really reads more like a movie than it does like something you've written like for a book. And I can see how this could be turned into like a Netflix thing, or even like a mini series for, four episodes, maybe 4 1-hour episodes or something like that. And I could see how they could turn that into a much more suspenseful watching moment than a suspenseful reading moment. And I hear that they are going to turn The Housemaid into a film. I don't know if it's going to be at the cinema or if it's going to be on streaming, but I heard that that is happening. And I can actually get behind that more than this book. And I think, I think it would be a much better film than it is a book, because it's just missing some stuff. And I wouldn't be surprised that if they adapt it to film, that they're going to add some of the things that I'm thinking. They're going to add some things to the adaptation to film, because it is missing things. Now, I don't know. I'm not reading Frida McFadden like that, so I don't really know. Like, I haven't read anything else she's written. I don't really care to read anything else she's written. But maybe with some of her other novels, maybe she has improved her writing since she wrote The Housemaid. The Housemaid came out in 2022. And I want to think she's written quite a few books since 2022. And I don't think The Housemaid is her debut. So I went to check, and I noticed that Frida McFadden has been writing novels since 2013. And The Housemaid was written in 2022. So clearly that's a long time, space of time to have improved her writing. But in my opinion, for me, it's not there yet. It's not there. And I mean, for all I know, it probably never will be better than what it is now. Now, I can see why people like to read this. It's just not for me, but I can see why people want to read this. Okay, so The Housemaid, it's called The Housemaid series, and it has 4 books in the series. So the first book is called The Housemaid. Then we have The Housemaid's Secret. And then we have The Housemaid's Wedding. And The Housemaid is Watching is the 4th book in the series. So clearly, I think it's The Housemaid that has put Frida McFadden on the map. And it's the one that readers seem to have taken to like, ducks in water. Now, I'm going to read a little bit about Frida McFadden so you can hear more about who she is. But it says, Frida McFadden is a practicing physician specializing in brain injury who has penned multiple Kindle best-selling psychological thrillers and medical humor novels. She lives with her family and possessed cat in a centuries-old 3-story home overlooking the ocean, with staircases that creak and moan with each step. And nobody could hear you if you scream, unless you scream really loudly, maybe. So that's how she's being introduced. So she's actually a brain surgeon, which I think is, wow, that's pretty impressive. Anyway, that's it. That's all I have for you today. I felt compelled to talk about this novel. I was debating whether I should even bring this review, because so many people have already reviewed it, and I don't want to I don't want to, throw the pot out the window kind of thing. But really not my cup of tea, but I can see why people like it. For me, it's a 2-star, and I will never revisit another McFadden unless I have to read it for my book club, of course. I don't know. Check it out. If you've read Frida McFadden, particularly The Housemaid, because that's the only one I can talk about. But if you have read her, comment below and let's chat about it. Let's argue about why, it's a no or it's a yes, or you can understand me or I can understand you. I'm just curious what y'all thinking. Are y'all reading The Housemaid? Have you read it? Let's talk about it. I'll be back with another video real soon. Bye.